Hello, this is Antoine Garth from Garthastro.com. And today we're going to talk about birth chart interpretation and applying versus separating aspects. Now, for the birth chart interpretation series, we're assuming that you already know the signs, the planets, the aspects, the houses, etc. So you already have some kind of background and you're looking to kind of put things together, or you're looking to use what you already know to kind of come to conclusions or judgments. So what I'm finding is that the most important thing that you can be trying to understand is applying aspects versus separating aspects. And one of the things that I notice consistently when I'm on something like reddit.com is people are really, really interested in what kind of configuration they have. And this is a type of traditional or medieval or early or ancient configuration, and seeing how planets, first of all, which planets are applying, by which aspect they are applying, if there are any applications at all in the chart. This is all stuff that we're going to look at. So first of all, let's come to understand what is the difference between an applying and a separating aspect. And then I'll come back to my little rant. Once again, this is coming from Bonatti's 146 considerations, and this is coming from the weekly workshop that I do, the free weekly workshop that I do every Sunday at noon PST. And if you're interested in joining us for that workshop, the link is in the description. And this particular issue around application versus separation is specific. It's one of the 16 points under this particular consideration. And so the most important thing about this consideration in the book is that this is the very first delineative consideration. All of the others are preliminary forereading. This is the very first consideration that's about, okay, you're going to read a chart. What is it that we're looking for when we read a chart? And what does it say? The fourth consideration is of the causes of things helping matters so they come to be and are perfected, and those which prohibit matters so they do not come to be, nor are they perfected. And what are the causes destroying matters after they were perfected? So it's all about happenings or not happenings. So application and separation is one of the easiest ways to understand if something is happening or something has happened, really. So connection is essentially what this is called, or referred to. The Arabic is al-ittisal, and conjungi or conjunctio are terms that we would see in the Latin. And in the English translation, whenever we see the word join, conjunction, aspect even, those words all mean applying, and applying aspects. So this word connection, it is all conjunctio, application, attachment, joining, there's joining, adherence, attachment. Those all mean an applying aspect. Now, what is an applying aspect? So only faster planets can apply to slower planets. So an applying aspect is when a fast planet is in some kind of aspect to a slower planet, and it is in a lower degree of the sign in which it is. And so as you can see down here, I have what is called the Chaldean order of the planets, which goes from slowest to fastest. And so from fastest to slowest, the moon is the fastest planet. Mercury is after the moon, then Venus, then Sun, then Mars, then Jupiter, then Saturn. That means who can apply? Who can apply to whom? The moon can apply to all planets. Mercury can apply to all planets except the moon. Venus can apply to the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and the outers. Now, of course, for our particular circumstances, we're not necessarily using the outers. The Sun can apply to Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Jupiter, or rather we missed Mars. Let's put them in here. Oh, we can't, sorry. Mars can apply to Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter can apply to Saturn. Saturn can apply to the outers. So we missed Mars, unfortunately, but you get the idea. So when we're looking at planets applying to other planets, for instance, let's say we have an aspect between Venus and Jupiter. Venus would have to be at a lower degree of a sign than Jupiter's. And I think I have, yes, certainly I do. So the moon is at 12 degrees of Virgo. Remember, the moon is the fastest of all of the planets. And she is trining Mars at 14 degrees of Capricorn. The moon is at a lower degree of the sign. That we would say a lower degree, lower degree in the sign, or a lower degree of longitude in the sign. So the moon is at 12 degrees of Virgo. Mars is at 14 degrees of Capricorn. The moon is the faster planet. She's at a lower degree. This is an applying aspect. This is an applying trine between the moon and Mars. So this is something that Alcabisi, or either Alcabisi or Abu Mashar, one of these, it's from the Benjamin Dykes translation of Introductions to Traditional Astrology. The conjunction or aspect of the moon, remember conjunction, oh, by the way, that word conjunction, it means any aspect. So it means not just the bodily conjunction, but it means any applying aspect. The conjunction or aspect of the moon with the planet, notice they say aspect also. So conjunction, aspect means applying. Okay, I'm going to continue the sentence this time. The conjunction or aspect of the moon with the planet signifies everything which is going to be and everything about which the querent hopes. Remember, the querent is the person asking the question. Remember that all of this is about all of astrology. These 146 considerations are not just about natal astrology. Natal astrology was not at the center of astrology during this period. Really, horary and electional astrology were. And so we're looking at this from a broad basis of how to use astrology, period, not just how to look at charts. We have to kind of tailor make some of these considerations for what to be looking at, or what are the implications for a natal chart. So, and if the planet were fortunate, good, but if a bad one, bad. Obviously that's old time talk. And underneath here, aspecting like a man seeking what he wants. I love these little adage, what do they call these? Aphorisms. I love these little aphorisms down here. Aspecting is like a man seeking what he wants. Aspecting means applying aspect, which means a faster planet is in a lower degree in the sign in which it occupies than a slower planet, and they are in aspecting signs, and they're about to come into an aspect. Our next one is separation, and notice the term that they use, disregard. So disregard is for separation. So disregard, diverting, disregarding, splitting, neglect or disregard, neglectio, separatio, insiraf is the Arabic term, falling or flowing off. So there was this real idea of disregard or neglect, or kind of turning away from, crossing over, splitting up. So it's kind of moving away, but basically averting, diverting, disregarding. If you divert something, you're moving it away from one particular area, right? So let's divert that stream from here. Okay, we divert it to that other area. So if you're disregarding it, okay, we're done with that, right? So that's pretty much what separating means. So if you're paying attention in a natal chart, especially to what is applying versus what is separating, then what's going to happen is you're going to be paying attention to the planets that are in application. You're going to be obviously paying attention to the type of aspect that's happening. And then you're going to be paying attention to the houses that are connected as a result of the house rulerships of those planets, right? So those things are all going to have different implications. So separating aspects, the faster planet is already past the exact or partile aspect of the slower planet. Partile is the term that we use for an exact aspect. The faster planet is in a higher degree of longitude than the slower planet. And here's our example. The moon is at 16 degrees of Virgo. Mars is at 14. The faster planet is now at a higher degree. It is past its partile or exact aspect, and it's in disregard. So we would be able to say that the moon is in disregard to Mars. She's disregarding Mars. She's done with him. And the separation of the moon from a planet signifies what is past. And if we should be separated from the conjunction or aspect of a fortune, good was present. But if a bad one, evil. So what does he say? Signifies what is past. The separation signifies what is past, especially the separation of the moon. And a separating planet is like one regretting a matter. And of course, what's the interesting thing about regretting a matter is that if you regret a matter, you are looking back at it. You're looking back at the matter. So let's now see if we can find a good chart that will help us. This is the chart of Charlie Chaplin. And we're just looking for applying and separating aspects in the chart. So we're not looking at, if you know the last one that we did, our last birth chart interpretation video had to do with advancing versus retreat. So we were looking at what planets are in angular or succedent houses and what planets are not, are in cadent houses. For this, we're just looking at who's zooming who and doing what to who. So we'll start with the fastest planet. The fastest planet is the moon, and she's at 9 degrees of Scorpio. Now, we're going to go over this when I do my video on how to identify aspects, but Scorpio aspects Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces to the left, and Virgo, Leo, and Cancer to the right. So, and then obviously Taurus, as Scorpio itself, and then the sign opposite. So the moon can aspect any of those things. The moon is at 9 degrees, she's the fastest. Here's Jupiter at 8. So the moon is in disregard to Jupiter because she's faster and she's at a higher number than Jupiter. So she's already past their sextile. So she's in disregard to Jupiter. So that is a separating aspect. Let's see. So Aquarius, nothing. Pisces, nothing. Let's see. Virgo, nothing. Ooh, 9 to 13. There is an applying square to Saturn. So the moon is applying to the square of Saturn. Okay, then Cancer, nothing. Then if we look over across, indeed, the moon is applying to the opposition of Mars, and the moon is applying to the opposition of this retrograde Venus. So there we have the moon's application, right? Remember, each planet can apply to different planets. So the moon right now is applying to both Saturn and Mars and Venus. So all three of these planets, which creates something of a T-square, right? So this is what, when we think about configurations these days, this is what we think about. Oh, a T-square, the moon's in a T-square with Mars and Saturn and Venus, right? But what I'm really looking at something a little bit different. Who's applying? Is the moon applying? Yes, it just turns out that way. The moon's applying first to Saturn, then to Mars, then finally to Venus. And she is in disregard to Jupiter. Let's look at Mercury. Mercury is at 17 degrees of Aries, and Aries can apply to, or Aries can aspect Gemini, Cancer, and Leo to the left, and Aquarius, Capricorn, and Sagittarius to the right. So, and then of course, across Libra. So anything going on with Gemini? No. Anything going on with Cancer? No. Saturn, Mercury is in disregard to Saturn, right? Because Mercury is faster and Mercury is at a higher degree than Saturn. What about the others? Aquarius, no. He's in disregard to Jupiter in Capricorn and nothing in Sagittarius. We could say because of the moiety, which is something we'll talk about later, Mercury's moiety is 3.5. The sun's moiety is 7.5, which gives them 11 degrees. So we can say technically there's an 11-degree moiety. We can say technically that Mercury is applying to the conjunction of the sun. What about Venus? Nope. Venus, oh, well, yes, Venus is retrograde and she's applying to both the square of Saturn and the conjunction of Mars. That means that Venus will be, when she gets into the 14th degree, Venus will be besieged. She will be involved in a besiegement between these two planets, which is not good for her. Let's see what else is going on. Mars or Sun. The Sun is too far, and he's at the very end, so he cannot apply to anybody. Mars is at 1334. Saturn is at 1325. So Mars and Saturn are finishing their partile aspect, and Mars is separating, but only by 11 minutes, right? So that's interesting. And then, of course, Jupiter cannot apply to anybody but Saturn, and Saturn can't apply. So our applications in this chart, in Charlie Chaplin's chart, are the moon to Saturn, the moon to Mars and to Venus, Venus to Mars and to Saturn, Mercury to the sun. Okay, so that was application and separation. If you have questions, put them in the comments section. If you like this, please hit like and please hit subscribe. And once again, you can find a link to subscribing to participate in our weekly free workshop in the description. Thanks so much. Oh, perfect. I didn't.